Scott Guitar Masengo. Have a rockin' day.
Well, good evening, everyone, or maybe good afternoon. First of all, we want to thank our sponsor, Mischief Studios over in Pennington, New Jersey. Thank you for your continued support. Go there for purchases, recordings, lessons, anything you can need. They're wonderful and a great resource for the musical community, not only in Central Jersey, but in New York and the Philadelphia area. Now, I'm really happy to announce that we're trying something different now. I remember with sadness, a little over 3 years ago when the pandemic started, Scott and I wanted to keep our show alive, and we came up with the idea of what we originally calling the fireside chats. And we did something different. We started doing remote shows, which really increased our reach for Guitar Tales. And next week, we're recording with our first artist, not only from the UK, that'll be our second artist. There we go, our second artist from the UK. But our first artist who will be actually talking to us from the other side of the pond, as they say. And now Scott and I were talking about what to do in between guests, because there's so many great things to chat about. Scott has so many wonderful insights. And every time we talk, I say to Scott, this could be a show. So we came up with the idea of the Intermezzo, the course between courses, the show between shows, where Scott and I could talk about different things and get your thoughts about them, and then we'll see how it works. But this is our first ever Intermezzo show. And Scott, I'll let you hop on, and we'll talk a little bit about tonight's topic.
Here I am. Here I am. Ba-da-da-da, talking about the cheap guitars. That's today's topic, David. Guitars.
I love this topic. And it's Scott's idea, and I loved it. We've covered it 1,000 times on the show over the years. And there are people who have opinions on both sides of things. In honor of this show, if you look behind me, you'll see our friend Lou Reed. And right next to Lou Reed, to Lou Reed's left, I had to think about that, is a wonderful Ivy guitar I actually got from the Guitarmacy. Tell us about that guitar, Scott. There's a softball.
Yeah, my website, guitarmasters.com, is a Amazon affiliate, and that means that I basically take items from Amazon, put them on the website that I personally pick out, and then you can look at it at my website. Takes you to Amazon to make that purchase, and they ship it to you. So I'm making these personal recommendations, and Ivy, it's also actually IYV, but everybody calls them Ivy because I don't know. Right. Either way, it comes up. But they make a really great Les Paul copy. I mean, people were gushing about it online. I'm like, all right, well, let me give it a shot. So David ordered one, and another friend of mine, as a matter of fact, friend of the show, Rosario, ordered one, and they loved it. I mean, it's got this transparent green top on it. There it is, IYV. But you can see why people call it Ivy here in America by accident.
I didn't know until just now.
It's great.
Yeah. Look at the back.
Yeah. So that guitar, I think at the time, cost what, Dave, under $200?
No, it was $179, not even close to $200. $179.
I mean,
look at the action. Look at the action of this thing. Let me see if I can get it there.
It's astonishing. It's got binding on the body, binding on the neck. And the pickups don't sound cheap, and the hardware doesn't look or feel cheap either. Like the knobs are solid, and the tone control and the volume are solid. Now, there is a lot of brand snobbery in the musical community. Every time I play a gig, somebody will come up and like, what kind of guitar is that? What kind of pedals do you have? What kind of amp are you using? And if it's anything but Fender or Marshall, they go, I don't know. It sounds a little funny to me. And then we were just watching, and we'll probably drop it in post-production of this great show, which is something I do for the show, post-production. I'm in the post.
Where do you do it? What
I'm in the
studios?
Noise Network Studios. Yes, sir.
There we go.
Oh yeah, we have a merch QR code. I should put that up there.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, I have to control all these things and talk. This is going to be great. There we go. So yeah, we saw a video of a guy who put, I guess, 5 Stratocasters on top of each other, and he started at the top with about $300 and went all the way down to $60,000. They're all red, they're all Fender, but he started with Squire, and then he did like maybe a foreign Squire, and then he did like a Fender made overseas, then he did an American Fender, and he went right down the line to with $60,000.
4 of the same guitars ranging from $400 to $60,000. So, which one would you pick? Let's hear it one more time.
I mean, that's just, what's the most you ever paid for a guitar?
$1,300 for a Brian Moore I bought in New York. And no, it's a long story. I'd rather not say, but it's a very long story. But no, I don't have it anymore.
The most I ever spent on a guitar was a custom Ibanez. What they call it? The top of the line Ibanez. I forget. Prestige. I think they call it. And he tricked it all out with a bullet Moffett amp. And he could turn on and off. That gives you a little extra power. And he changed out the pickups, and he did this beautiful work. A fella named Sal Tyne works for a place called Guitar Fix in Long Island, and I bought off eBay, and we actually hit it off after I bought the guitar. This is my divorce present, and
right.
I really, and it has his name on it, Sal Tyne, up on the headstock, and so I call the guitar Saltine because
I love it. That's a great name, Saltine.
So I call it the Saltine, and I never take it out and play it because that's one of the things about having an expensive guitar is you're worried about the neck breaking. You're worried about a drunk person you're not knocking it over.
Right.
You're worried about it being stolen out of your car or stolen off the stage while you're packing up or whatever. So if I lose a $300 guitar, I don't give a shit.
Right.
Can we say shit?
We can. We've gotten permission. We don't care about cable, even though we're theoretically on cable.
PBS didn't pick up our fireside chat shows, so we're allowed to curse.
Yeah.
So that's that. But anyway, yeah. I mean, I'm a bootlegger guitar artist, and even those guitars, comparatively speaking, for the quality, are much cheaper than you'd pay if you bought its American similar counterpart.
Oh, it's gorgeous! It's absolutely gorgeous.
Which model is that bootlegger?
This is the Hound Dogger, I think.
The Hound Dogger?
No, it's not. It's not the Hound Dogger. I have the Hound Dogger upstairs. I hate to admit it, but I forget which model this is. It'll come to me.
But they're always creating new models. They got models, they got bases, they got all kinds of stuff. They all come with hard shell cases, and I don't mean like a flimsy hard shell case.
No, they're gorgeous. Those cases.
They're like legitimate plush line, well protected, heavy duty case.
Yeah, and if you look at this,
blown away by the case almost as much as I was by the guitar.
I mean, look at the machine heads are gorgeous.
Right.
Both sides, and then you got the P90.
Yeah.
And then you got the lipstick as the bridge pickup.
Right.
All the hardware is just beautifully made. You got that little cutaway there. Yeah. And what I love about this is that when we're talking about these guitars, I don't know about you, but I sort of have more nostalgia for my cheaper, different guitars. If I spent a boatload of money on an expensive guitar, if I decided I want a real Les Paul or a real Strat, so what? That just means you spent a lot of money.
Mhm.
I remember my first ever guitar, my first ever electric, was a 4 pickup Tisco, probably like a 1969 or 70, that I got at Bernadine Music in Matawan, New Jersey. It was a 12-string hollow body or semi-hollow body, $25.
$25.
$25.
I think we've talked about this guitar before. It's like super like collectible and expensive now, right?
Yeah, and of course I traded it in for $40 or something. But that guitar, in my sort of guitar memories, holds a higher place than many of my other guitars that were so-called nicer.
Right.
And it was an interesting guitar, which I like.
I mean, I've got some interesting guitars, but again, when I purchased them, I mean, they're worth a lot more money now. But at the time when I bought them, I got them for well under $1,000. I mean,
right,
maybe no more than $400 or $500 tops. And I'm talking about early Kramers, which are kind of being sought after now all of a sudden.
right.
There's a new resurgence, and we know our friend Henry Vaccaro is starting up the Vaccaro Guitar Company again. He's bringing jobs back to Neptune here in Neptune, New Jersey.
He is.
And they're going to open the factory, and they're going to start cranking out some really cool stuff. But years ago when I was doing guitar shows and trying to sell Kramer guitars, nobody wanted them. You want a Pacer? You want this? You want that? You want a Night Swan? Not interested. Night Swans go for a few grand now, maybe $1,500, $1,600. I have a workable Kramer model called the Sustainer, which has electronics in it by Floyd Rose.
Right.
That excites the strings and keeps them playing eternally until you take your finger off the fretboard.
Wow. How's the sustain in that guitar? Sorry, it's like a dad joke.
It goes on forever, and there'll be a lot of those dad jokes here at the
Intermezzo.
The Intermezzo, yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, I have a '79 Stratocaster, and even that was made overseas.
Right.
That's after CBS, I guess, right? So
post CBS. Yep. Yeah.
It's so the serial number's so close, even experts can't figure out if it was made in the United States or made in Japan.
Right.
It says made in USA on the headstock, though.
That's probably true then.
But early on, when they were transitioning, I don't know where it was made exactly. It sounds great. It could be a boat anchor. It's an extremely heavy guitar.
Right.
Way heavier than any Stratocaster that I've ever played. I don't know what it's made out of, but it's very, very heavy.
Well, that's the other thing that you bring up that I think is so interesting, is that you could get 1,079 Strats, and they're all going to each be a little bit different.
Yeah.
Even if they came out of the same factory, like the exact same model, same price point.
Yeah.
There'll be variants. So, you might get lucky and spend $200, $250 on a guitar. And if you get one from the lot where it's crafted just right, you might have a better guitar than the same company when they make a $1,500 version of that.
Absolutely. Another friend of the show, James McGill,
right?
His show will be streaming live on Thursdays, probably in a couple of Thursdays from now. And he had a Japanese-made Stratocaster called the Wayne's World Strat. So they made a Stratocaster for the movie. It's really cool. It's got the little Wayne's World nameplate on the neck, on the neck plate. But it's just it's a white Stratocaster. They take the pickups and they made them a little discolored to give it a litit bit of age.
Right.
But it says Squire on the headstock.
Interesting.
And it was just sort of a promotion for the film. And he bought it as because he loves Wayne's World, and who doesn't?
Who doesn't?
We're basically doing the Wayne's World show right now.
Yeah.
Extreme close-up. He said it's like one of the strattiest Strats that he owns.
Wow.
So I have one too. Same year, same model, same color. And it's fantastic. Now, at the time I bought that guitar, I bought 2 Wayne's World Strats.
Really?
The serial numbers were only 1 digit apart.
Wow.
And one sounded like crap, and one
Yeah.
sounded amazing. So I sold the crappy one, and I kept the amazing one. And I still have it.
Wow.
And James McGill evidently got an amazing one as well.
Well, I think now is a decent time to bring back. Who did? Was it Tone King? We did the pickup show with. No, it was
Tone King had a lot to say about
pickups.
Pickups and stuff, but it was Dylan Talks Tone.
That's right. Dylan Talks Tone, right? And we came up with the it's pasta, right?
Right.
Pasta is flour, water, and maybe an egg, and that's it.
Yeah.
And so with these guitars, you're comparing one digit apart. You've got wood, metal, plastic, wood, metal, plastic, wood, metal, plastic, and they're all being made on the same lathe and the same pickup. In that case, I'm sure it's in a fully 100% automated pickup winder, to wrap the coils around. And yet these subtle, slight differences. Maybe one guitar had someone working in the factory who's either having a good or a lucky day, and the other maybe had someone who's having a bad day. And suddenly the slightest difference in your action isn't as good. The slightest difference in the pickups are wound a little differently. The nut is maybe cut a little off or perfectly. There's a certain magic to it that can happen just as readily in a cheap guitar as it can in a good guitar.
Earlier this year, I bought a double neck from China.
Wow.
And it looks like a Stratocaster with two necks on it. One neck is 12 string, one neck is a standard Stratocaster.
Right.
And it was horrendous.
Is it that playable or no?
It was unplayable out of the box. Aside from the strings and the action being terrible, when you hit the 12 string side, the strings were popping out of the nut.
Wow.
Like just these strumming, they went ping pang pong,
Wait, how did they go?
Ping pang pong.
Okay, just making sure. All right.
Yeah, that's not a Chinese joke. So it was a really, really poorly made Chinese guitar. However, because it looked cool, I put a few $100 into it. Not even a couple $100. I put a new nut on it. I locked down the top. I didn't change any pickups. I could have, but I set the action. I shimmed the neck.
Did you really?
Stuff. I cleaned all the frets up. I did all that stuff, and now it's playable. Still not great. Could use a little intonation work. I may take it over to Charles Larita,
right,
to have him have a look at it. But I just wanted it as stage candy, eye candy. That you bring it out, like I have a cheap, under $100, under $200 acrylic Stratocaster that lights up and stuff.
I love that one. I've seen it.
The whole thing lights up.
Yeah.
And that gets the phones out of the pockets and pointed at the stage. It's like automatic promotion. The same thing with the double neck. When I bring out the double neck, people are going to want to take pictures.
Right.
It's not necessarily going to play great. It's not going to sound super great. It'll be playable and passable, but most people at the end of the day don't give a shit that your guitar costs $60,000 or $100.
No.
They're just there to have a good time.
Your job.
Yeah, you know who cares about gear?
Guitar players.
The guys in the front standing like this, looking at me.
Yep.
Like this, no emotion, staring at my equipment.
Yep. And your guitars.
And when I met Steve Vai, he told me the same thing. He got legions of guys in the front row staring at his equipment. No girls.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I got into rock and roll for the girls, he said, and there's only nerds and the guitar nerds in the front
row. I know. That's exactly what it is.
My guitar and my stuff and how I'm playing things. So very true. Very true.
Yeah.
Nobody's staring at me about my playing, but they do like to stare at my equipment. That came out wrong.
Yeah, I know. Anyway. Yeah. I was waiting for that semi-intentional double entendre.
We have a short video from a past guest of ours, Erin Deathridge. Would we like to play that now?
It is on point, my friend. Yes.
She has a solution to when you buy a Squier guitar and people are giving you the brand snobbery. And here's what she said.
Yeah. Nice.
Can be a little brand snobby. So what I did is I took some sandpaper and scratched off Squier, and then I bought on eBay one of the Fender custom shop emblems and put that on there. And of course, from far away, you'll never know. And
that's funny. That's very funny.
Because I'm like, I do it sometimes too, and I try really hard not to be like a gear snob, but I'm like, look, I need people to take me seriously. Not that there's anything wrong with Squiers. Some
No,
of
I get it.
that guitar, I still love it, but yeah. So that
Squire
was
does have it has a bad connotation. I don't know why.
I don't
You know,
either.
I think it's Fender saying to the world, "Here's a cheap version of our guitar," and it might not be true, but yeah, I know exactly what you mean. There's almost like a stigma if you have the Squire name.
I love it.
I think when Squires first came out, when they were being made in Japan, my recollection, and we could check this, is that was a premium brand, not their cheapest model.
Oh, I don't remember that. Okay.
Yeah, they had a couple of guitars that were sort of a little tricked out, and they were kind of expensive, and they called them Squires. Now, over the years, the Squire became their entry level guitar, especially when they stopped making them in Japan and started making them in Mexico and Indonesia and places like that. Yeah, I mean, you could pick up a Squire for like $199. And let's be honest, if your kid is starting to play guitar, yeah, they need a sort of kind of a quality instrument so they won't be discouraged. The setup is very important. No matter what you buy, take it to a professional luthier and have them set it up the best it can be, because that goes a long way. Because if you can't play that thing, if you could slice cheese on the strings,
yeah,
and the action sucks, and you're cutting your hands on the frets and so forth, just have it cleaned up. Have it, it's not expensive. Maybe another $100, maybe tops to make it playable and nice. But
Scott will do it free. Just send it to Scott. I'll do it free.
Yeah, send it to me, or take it to Charles Lorena.
Yeah, that's right. So I thought I give you license to be open for what I'm about to talk about. There is a certain irony to the clip that you just played, and I'll give you a hint, and I give you free license to tell the truth. I am wearing AirPods in the interview, and yet there is a prominently on camera, clearly displayed Shure microphone. And yet my voice sounds like crap. Why is that?
Oh, you're talking about the clip we just showed.
Yeah.
Well, you didn't have the mic plugged in. It was sort of a prop.
So I didn't realize when Erin and I are having that conversation, this is in the nascent days of the remote guitar tales, when I was trying to figure out the technology from my office desk, literally just, working in my office. Yeah. I had my AirPods in, and I had your really nice Shure mic. I think it was yours. And
yeah, I think the issue was it was an XLR connector, and you couldn't figure out how to get it into the computer or something.
No. So I made sure that the little Shure sign is on display. So as Erin is talking about replacing a Squire label with a Strat label, I'm literally deceiving however many people were watching the show, as though I were talking through a Shure, when in fact I was talking through AirPods. So there you go.
So with the magic of the internet here, we figured out, and our friends here at Noise Network Studios, we figured out how to put up QR codes to bring you to the website where all the budget guitars are that I personally selected. There's probably a few hundred in there at this point. It keeps growing. Not everything is in stock at Amazon, but I try to keep up on that best I can, because things come and go. Like that Ivy behind you is not available anymore, but they have a blue one out now.
Oh, that would be beautiful.
So we're able to put QR codes for a couple of guitars that I have on the website that you can just scan and go there. Here's one. Here's the Ivy.
Wow.
And the picture's backwards, but really, who gives a damn? It's ocean blue, and it's gorgeous, and it's in stock, and it's $186.99 shipped free shipping.
It's crazy. I bought that thing for myself as a housewarming gift when I moved into the place I'm living at now, and I was longing for that guitar for about a year, and when it came, I'm telling you, it has amazing action. It sounds great. It's playable
right out of the box. Like,
yeah,
you didn't take it to a luthier. You don't know shit about setting up guitars.
No,
I personally played it at your house.
Yeah,
and I was like, this is really, really nice.
It is, and it's not even $200.
No.
And that's so when we talk about this, let me add another piece to it. I'm a bit of a gearhead right now. I have maybe 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 guitars, not that many. You probably have about 20 or 30.
I'm coming around. I really only got most 30 or 40 guitars, and a lot of them, most of them, with very few exceptions, are, unless they've appreciated in value over the years. When I purchased them, they were all under the $400 or $500 mark.
Right, and that's the thing. So if you're someone who either can't or would rather not, spend an insane amount of money buying more and more and more guitars, because no one really needs more than a few, right? So for the joy of owning guitars, looking at them, you get bored playing one guitar, so you'd like to pick up another. Getting these inexpensive guitars allows us to feed the beast, so to speak, and allows us to enjoy that hobby. Unless you're fabulously wealthy, feeding that hobby with a $3,000 guitar, even if you could pull it off, there's a little bit of guilt associated with that. If it's a family budget, if you're not living alone and there's other people in your home and in your life financially and otherwise, there's a little bit of, I don't know, maybe irresponsible self-indulgence.
Absolutely.
If you're dropping $5,000 on a guitar you don't need but want, well, is that less money for the family vacation? Is that less money for your future? If someday you'd like to retire,
or just if you're just buying good instruments for the kids. I mean, how much you really want to spend if Junior's gonna not really,
right?
Is he gonna have that aha moment and start playing "Smoke on the Water" with one finger, or 25 or 64 with one finger, or is he gonna just I don't know how to tune this. I broke a string. Just crap, and put it in the corner and hang my shirt on it, or sell it at a garage sale for $10.
No, it's true. And conversely, for those kids, they'll have an appreciation, and you don't want to spoil them too quickly. You want, like you said, you want a playable guitar. And I even bought as many guitars. I mean, I used to just buy used all the time, and that's another thing we could talk about. There's great used guitars out there.
Sure. If a guitar that's inexpensive from the get-go is being sold used, you're going to save another $40, $50, even $100, depending on, if the neck became a banana over the years because they kept it in the garage. What happened? Oh, okay. I thought he had a poop.
No. This is a Court guitar, which I only learned after I bought it, is a Korean company that is the maker of many well-known guitars.
Very true.
And you knew that. I didn't know it. It's got two humbuckers. It's built beautifully. It's heavy. There's the Court insignia. It's got great tuning heads, right? I got this.
Is that a neck through job?
A what?
Is it neck through, or is it bolted on the neck?
It's right through. Look at that.
Yeah. I think we were spinning and I thought I saw no neck plate on it. So that's a quality instrument. Yeah,
and Facebook Marketplace with an amp. What did I get? I think I have a Laney here. I might have gotten a Laney with it. This with an amp, $140. Come on. I forgot it was hanging in here, and it's heavy. It's built well. I don't use it, but there's even this is a whammy right here. So. That's the other thing, is that I love this purchase. Like, it was a cool purchase,
Right.
And
I've gotten kind of lucky at flea markets. Once in a blue moon, I might find something. But most of the cheap guitars I buy online. I get them from Amazon. Most of them.
Yeah.
I'm literally putting my money where my recommendations are. I have here's a Squier Sonic Telecaster, $199.99.
Wow.
It comes in a bunch of different colors. I have one, and it sounds like a Tele. I mean,
that's the thing.
It is what it is, and it sounds great. Well, it looks great.
Well, I drive.
If it's stolen, I could care less. If the neck, it breaks my heart. Sometimes I see on the internet a guy's got a Les Paul that costs him like maybe $4 or $5 grand, and the neck is broke.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, that'll never ever, get the value back. You can fix the neck, okay, and it'll be playable again. But really,
no, it's not the same guitar.
Destroyed a collectible.
Yeah.
And most of these accidents happen in the home and at the gig.
Yeah, I mean,
mostly at the gig.
Yeah,
That knocks over the guitar, and then You know, I I have a guitar, an LTD Stratocaster that's pre-relict, and there's a video of me somewhere. Maybe I could put it up where I'm taking the guitar at the end of a Smoking Jacket song and I'm slamming it on the stage. Pieces are flying off of it. People are going ape shit.
Wow.
And then I got home, like, why did I do that? Because I knew in the back of my head it was a $200 guitar. So at
Yeah.
the worst case scenario, what I got paid for the gig and what the guitar cost me to put on a show is a wash.
Well, it's a
everybody
dinner.
got great videos.
It's a dinner for two people. It's a nice dinner for two people.
So
You know,
and it's already relic. So if a chip
Yeah.
comes out of it or whatever, it's fine. I didn't want the neck to break.
Yeah.
I was slamming the body onto the stage.
Yeah. And you know, like you know, when you think of cars, right? I have an Expedition. It's just as nice as the Lincoln Navigator. It's the same car,
Yeah.
but the Navigator is a lot more money because it's got a few bells and whistles. Mine doesn't, but it's the same car. So you compare the Squire to the Strat, right? Or
Yeah.
you know, a million other examples. They're just as good. Or better yet, the Epiphone to the Gibson, right? It's the same company.
Yeah, classic.
You know?
Here's a thing. Think
Yeah.
like a businessman for a minute, okay?
Yeah.
You own a guitar company. Now, you're making entry-level guitars and you're making really super expensive guitars. At some point, there has to be a common denominator of parts in both guitars.
Yeah.
Because you're not gonna make I don't know, you're not gonna get your wiring from one place and put different wiring in another guitar. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Maybe the knobs, but there's going to be something that's the same. Maybe it's the wood, maybe it's the lacquer, maybe it's the paint, maybe it's the neck, maybe it's the tuners. I've seen this with Squires and Fenders and Epiphones and Gibsons. They use similar parts. I
Right.
mean, the same parts of both guitars because it doesn't make sense for them to manufacture special parts for the cheap one and special parts for the expensive one when they can use them in both operations. It just makes sense.
No,
Financially.
I remember in the early days we talked about Kramer. As you know, we had the great Henry Vaccaro on our show.
Yes.
You know, we support everything he does.
Great.
We love the man.
Great guy.
Before he and I met, before you and he met, I had, if you remember, I had a Kramer aluminum neck guitar.
Remember? Well,
and I had the 250 model. Why I remember this, I don't know. But that was his entry level guitar for that style with the aluminum split neck. And I remember the 350 model was the exact same guitar, but it looked different. The body looked a little prettier.
Yeah.
Mine was a blonde with, real basic. And the 350, which was a lot more money at the time, and this is in the 70s, I remember it was a darker finish, and then there was two pieces of wood down the middle that were blonde that were worked in there. But it had really nice inlays, so it was a much prettier guitar. But in terms of what it did, what it sounded like, how it played, it was the same guitar. And Henry was and is a great businessman, and he understood that if he wanted to charge a couple more bucks for the 350, he'd have to pretty it up.
Right.
But my guitar had that famous Kramer feel. It had, as Henry talked about on our show, its downfall, which was the neck was 8,000 pounds.
Right.
It was a graphite in the front and aluminum in the middle, and it was heavy. But my entry level Kramer, I suspect, and if we could ask Henry, I'm sure he would agree, was just as good in terms of sound and playability. It just wasn't quite as pretty as the 350 model.
Yeah, I mean, a lot. When you say a guitar is foreign made, and listen, I'm all American. I'm born in America. I grew up in America.
Yeah.
I'm very patriotic. I love this country, but there's something to be said about the craftsmanship of some of the overseas factories.
Yeah.
They're just as good, if not better, in some cases.
Yeah.
I know when I was selling Traveler guitars in the early days, they were being made by Fender in California.
Yeah.
And the first model. And then at some point, Fender decided they wanted to make it in China. And the owner of the company was really strictly against it. No, I want this to be American made. I want it to say made in USA on it and everything. And they will let me make you a prototype from the factory, and you could check out the quality and see if you like it. Well, not only was it half the price to manufacture, that's a whole other level of argument, but the build quality was better. It was just better.
Yeah.
It was the frets were dressed nicer. The neck was beautifully sanded down. The electronics were great. And all they did was work off the specs of the original.
Yeah.
And it was great. So the profit margin went up 50%.
Yeah, right. So they did okay.
So they started making over there. Now bootleggers are made in Korea, right?
Yes. But it's interesting.
But the build quality is fantastic.
Oh, it's unbelievable. And
I don't care where it's made. As long as the luthier or the factory knows what the hell they're doing.
Yep.
You should be okay.
Yeah. And it's designed by our dear friend Chuck Wilson. So he's coming up
on a napkin.
On a napkin. That's right. I forgot about that. And
Chuck draws the equivalent of a stick figure on a napkin.
And then a gorgeous guitar comes
make
out.
This.
Yep.
And they make it.
And here's the Marvel superhero origin story. So the guitar that famously, when we had Dave Gellis on, where the dog who's currently sitting at my feet ate 2 of the potentiometer covers.
Yeah.
I got that guitar on Facebook Marketplace, and that was a used bootlegger.
Right.
It fell in love with it. You and I chatted, and we thought, hey, let's reach out to the owner, and we just made a phone call. And the next thing you know, you're now an endorser, a bootlegger.
I've been with bootlegger for what, 3 years now?
Yeah.
And now they're starting to make pedals and all kinds of stuff. They make basses and guitars. They haven't delved into the acoustic stuff yet, but I think they're working on an acoustic
and
electric guitar.
I've got a gorgeous bootlegger tube amp upstairs. And
right. I forgot they're making amps now, and they're making a Dumble clone and
it's
all kinds of stuff.
Sort of in the tradition of a Fender Twin. Right. Sort of.
Yeah.
And it's I haven't even broken it in enough for those tubes to really warm up, but it's a nice amp. And it's affordable.
In a brand conscious society, especially with the musicians, are very brand conscious. The moral of the stories is don't be afraid to buy something or try something, especially if it looks and sounds great. Just don't be afraid. I mean, your investment is going to be quite lower than it is to buy, say, a Marshall. I went with DV amps for a while. Now I'm using an Orange amp, which I love. I don't care about. I was using a Bagheera amp, and they got a bad rap that they didn't work and they break down. I'm like, that thing is amazing, except it was just getting to be too big to lug around a half stack.
Well, you're an old man now.
Yeah, I wanted to lighten it up.
Yeah.
So I'm using a Pedal Baby by Orange. It's about the size of a large lunchbox. It sits right on the top of a 1x12 made by DV Mark, which is great.
Right.
Which is modeled after a probably a creamback or a greenback. I forget what they modeled it after, but it's kind of Marshall-y,
right,
type of speaker, and I love it. It's not breaking my back, and it's not breaking my wallet either.
Yeah, and it's funny. We could have done this whole show on inexpensive amps, because that's a whole nother thing,
right?
Because it's the same thing. It's metal and plastic, right, and wood. I remember I had when I bought my 78 Strat. It turns out that I bought it from a guy I had previously sold an amp to. I had bought, I don't know, $15, $20 used solid state amp that had a single 12 in it. Didn't sound great. And I remember this. I'm a little kid. I'm probably 17, 16. And I bought either an Eminence or an Electro Voice 12 with a big heavy magnet on it. Plopped it in the place of that. And I created, for very little money, an amazing amp that a gigging musician bought for me when I was ready to upgrade. And all I did was I took a literal cheap, crappy amp, or theoretically crappy, and I carefully selected a speaker that was a high efficiency speaker, because it was not a high wattage amp. And he told me when I bought my Strat off of him, he said, my amp was all over New Jersey gigging. and that was
Yeah.
a cheap amp with, at the time, and I guess by then maybe like 79, 80, 81. A professional musician is gigging with the amp that I modified as a little kid. I just rolled over my Bo's tail.
Ooh.
Yeah, he's okay now. He's mad at me.
We'll have to
But
edit
he's
that
okay.
part out. Oh,
There
wait.
he is. Yeah. It's his fault. He was under my chair.
Poor Bo.
Yeah.
So I mean, even when I say Johnny Compton, another friend of the show, bought a cheap multi-pedal thing.
Right.
I forget what brand it is. I'm using one too. It's called Nux, Nux. I think it's Nux. It's by, it's made by the Three Stooges, I guess. But again, small, compact, and sounds okay. It doesn't sound. It sounds better than okay. Matter of fact, I had a big line 6 unit, and the band said once I got this thing, it was sort of my fly rig to do like Atlantic City dates and stuff.
Right.
Because you got to cart all your stuff through the casino in one trip.
Right.
So I decided to get this little. I was going to go with a Tech 21, but it was missing some things I really needed. I needed an overdrive, distortion, modulation, reverb, delay, and a boost in one little small little contained unit, and they had it, the Nux.
How much is it?
It was like $300, I think, on Amazon.
I think that might be
maybe.
That might be in my future.
So I purchased that, and I bought a tiny little volume pedal to go with, also overseas company, probably Donner maybe.
Right.
And that's what I use. I used it. I had 2 gigs over the weekend, and that's what I used. And
I was at both your gigs. They sounded great.
Nobody said, "Oh, that guitar sounds like crap," or whatever.
Well, and it's funny because the other thing we've talked on the show before, about guitar players in general. You put any guitar in Eddie's hands.
Right.
He's the patron saint of this show, I think, on some level.
Yeah.
And that guitar will sound like Eddie. It's a very simple analysis. You put that.
Said that.
That's right.
There's a video. He was talking about a video where he was just playing somebody's Strat.
Yep.
And who knows what plugged into what, and it sounds like Eddie.
Yeah. And you put that guitar in my hands, and it sounds in a bad way like Dave.
Dave Chicka Cohen.
Dave Chicka Cohen. So that's the other piece of the thank you. And that's the other piece of the conversation. Is that at the end of the day, with all these little theoretic and probably not fully real variances between different model guitars, they will sound like the player,
right,
as opposed to the guitar.
True.
So this is funny. You're not our pure editor, so you're sitting there cringing as my dog barks. normally you can mute me, but we don't have that luxury right now.
We do. I'll take care of it later, or just leave it in. Who knows what we'll do?
Yeah.
But I think what we probably should have had on the show, since we agree with each other, obviously, on the cheap guitar issue, is somebody that says cheap guitars are a waste of money, and I'd rather have one great expensive guitar than 5 cheap guitars.
And I suppose there is something to be said for that. For some reason I have like an ES in my head. If you had like an ES, I don't know if you can. We've been talking about solid body electrics. Well, let me ask you this because you'll know better than I.
Yeah.
Forgetting Epiphone, which is still going to be pretty expensive if you get an Epiphone ES. Maybe not 1,000, but up there. Can you get a cheap, ES styled guitar, or is this conversation appropriately limited to solid bodies?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't matter. If it's solid body, Stratocaster, travel guitar, bass, baritone, whatever. I even bought a cheap ukulele.
Really?
just to mess around with. And I have a pretty inexpensive Ibanez acoustic electric, which I absolutely love.
Really? So in terms of, I always felt like the technology required to make a semi-acoustic sound good is a bigger ask than a solid body.
That is a concern, yeah. you're probably better. You're probably going to have better luck by buying a solid body cheap guitar versus something that's trickier to make, like an acoustic guitar.
That's what I'm thinking, because I think
although there's some really great inexpensive acoustic guitars out there. You don't have to buy a Martin for your 15-year-old kid who's learning how to play Smoke on the Water with one finger.
No.
And honestly, if you're learning how to play guitar, and other guests have said this as well, you should go with an electric guitar over an acoustic guitar.
I fully agree with that, because
way easier to play, a lot more fun, and a lot more toys.
Yeah, they're less likely to give up on it.
Yeah, you don't get bored as well. I mean, you play 2 notes on a electric guitar with the proper distortion, and that kid will be like, "Whoa!"
Yeah, and I've been counseling.
What did I just play?
Yeah. I've been counseling parents for 40 plus years. Put your kid on an electric if you want them to go to lesson number 2.
Yeah,
of their own free will.
I think Charles Larita had said something about that, one of his world famous TikToks.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one, but it's true.
Follow Charles Larita on the Mischief Studios on TikTok. He's got a lot of great. First of all, his store is filled with a lot of entry level guitars that he personally worked on and fixed up nice. Some of them come in used. Some of them were left by the door.
Really?
Like an orphan.
Wow. I didn't know that.
and people called him out. Well, that's bullshit. Nobody left the guitar outside your studio. He's like, I'm telling you, it happens all the time. People just leave shit there.
Wow.
Figuring like maybe this can go to a good home, and they just leave it in front of this shop, and then he brings it in, fixes it up, and gives it to a student for free most of the time, if not a small nominal fee. Just to cover his expense of fixing it up, whatever it is he had to do to it. But yeah, I mean, there's some really, really great entry level cheap guitars out there.
There are
right now.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it. For those who are in a position to get like a nice meal out, I mean, even you go to Red Lobster, 3 people is a couple $100 for dinner.
Easily.
And that's a nice guitar.
I spent a crap ton of money at the grocery store today.
Yeah.
I bought the equivalent of a cheap guitar at the Wegmans.
Right. Now, what you could have done instead, and you would have a new guitar right now, you and Aaron could have gone to Costco and just had the $1.50 hot dogs.
Right. Or ramen noodles or something.
Yeah. Right. Ramen noodles and an egg, and then you would own some new guitars.
And that's it. Yeah. I measure everything by the price of guitars. Wow, imagine how many guitars I could buy with that, $250,000.
That's right.
That I spent on my house or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. We're coming up on 47 minutes already.
We are. See, you and I even fall victim to it. That's right. It flies. And one of the things, not that there is any real formality to our regular shows, but there's something a little different when we're meeting a new friend of the show. They come on as strangers, they leave as friends, which is true for every guest we've had, unless we already knew them. But here's just you and I, kind of chit-chatting about the things that we've covered in a light way in the show, but now we got to spend 45 plus minutes on this.
I really, really, truly believe that you don't have to spend a lot of money to get a quality instrument.
No, you don't. And if you're listening right now, we want you all to commit to buy an extra guitar. Right now. No.
Well, it's Squire's 40th anniversary Strat just came out. And this is a picture of it here, and it's linked to buy one. I think it comes in a bunch of different colors. That is truly unique. Now
that's pretty cool.
People will say, "Well, it says Squire in the headstock." They're not going to see it from the stage.
And you don't have to apologize for it either.
Who cares? I'm probably sure it sounds okay. And if it doesn't sound okay, and you like the way it looks and the way it plays, then what do? You change out the electronics.
Yeah, that's true too.
Right? You just go in there and then change out the this one's got a humbucker in it with a mirrored pickguard. I think that's cool. That's rock and roll.
Yeah.
I mean, look at that thing.
I mean, Brian May paid like $150 for the guitar he built. Like
that's another thing that people
Yeah.
are doing now to circumvent the price of expensive guitars is they just build their own.
Yeah. But I listened to the Brian May. He had a really wonderful interview. I forgot who took. It might have been Dan Rather. It might have been someone else, on Axios. But what he paid, it was nothing for the guitar that he still uses.
Yeah. Yeah. There are ways to get around it. But yeah, if you want to go the do-it-yourself route, there's tons of kits out there. I've got them on guitarmissist.com because Amazon sells them. So I try to pick out the best kits, the ones that get the best reviews, and I put them on my site. People, they buy the hell out of those. They love them.
Well, you know what it is? You're curating what's in your store,
right?
Because if the uninitiated person just hops on Amazon, they're not going to know
where to look or what the best. I mean, you can look at the reviews and stuff, but I delve into all the reviews and what people are saying. Listen, not all the reviews are positive for everything. Everybody knows that. We get hate mail too.
Not enough. We want more.
I forget what the last hater said. It was like, really?
Yeah.
Well, we'll go back to Anthony Parker, our guest Anthony Parker, who somebody famously was busting his balls that he had a hairy chest and it was coming out of his shirt. Nothing to do with his playing, nothing to do with his content. They didn't like his hairy shirt, his hairy chest coming out of his shirt. Not his hairy shirt. If he was wearing a hairy shirt, then I could see.
Yeah, then you'd be on that.
See why the guy would be a hater.
Yeah.
It's terribly discouraging sometimes that people say to you. I think the most hurtful but yet truthful thing somebody ever wrote about one of my videos is, "You're a very mediocre guitar player."
Oh, that's not truthful, but that's
and
mean.
I go, yeah, pretty mediocre, I guess.
No.
That's going to be another show, kids. We're going to talk about does the internet, the way it is now, and all the fabulous players, 6-year-old people that could play Smoke on the Water for real and Eruption note for note, is that discouraging or helpful to young and up and coming musicians who are trying to learn how to play guitar? And
we're going to talk about what is that, where does that fit in the world of artistry and creativity? It's a great topic. And I got to say, in the back of my head, I thought if I'm on the phone, so to speak, with you, we're not doing 30 minutes. We have too much fun together. But this was our first Intermezzo show. So
whenever Dave and I talk, we go, that was a show. It's like it was reminiscent of Seinfeld. Like, we're not really talking about anything specifically, but we're entertaining each other. So we're hoping that maybe you guys will be entertained by what we have to say.
So that is our first Intermezzo show. Thank you for joining us on Guitar Tales. Dave Cohen and
Scott Guitarist this angle for you here for Guitar Tales with Dave Cohen, who's over there, that guy.
Yeah,
And I would, as I like to occasionally end our shows, because I work the board behind the scenes. I'm trying to work it behind the scenes while I'm trying to talk, which is difficult for me because once I get unfocused, like one of those guys. Probably untreated ADHD, who knows? I would love to play for you, my favorite man of all time, Big Daddy Abel. Take us out, Big Daddy.
Bye-bye, everyone.
I'm number two. No, I was the second. That's right. I was the second one. The second on Guitar Tales, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching it right now. I'm Big Daddy Abel, the Amish Outlaws. I gotta go back to work. Here we go. Guitar Tales, watch it!